Good afternoon, everybody. Post-lunch session. அதனால தான் ஏன் பிரசிடென்ட் வச்சுருக்கேன். தூக்க காலத்தில் கவனிக்காமல் விட்டுருவாங்கல்ல சில சமயம். Well, so 3 sessions have been completed since yesterday, and this is going to be the final session for the workshop. Of course, very crucial session. And once again, it's not going live, yeah? Live, okay. Again, the information kudukalaanu paatha certificate, online certificate. It's fine. Well, this session is going to be moderated by Dr. K. Ramasubramaniam. He is the Director and CEO of Valiant Technologies Group. He is a former chairman of the Board of Trustees of Center of Excellence in Digital Forensics, India, and served as Global Chair for 5 consecutive terms at International Institute of Certified Forensic Investigation Professionals, USA. Very, very high profile job. He served for 3 terms as India's country's representative at the International Federation for Information Processing. He served earlier as Global Chair of E&A Committee of the Generally Accepted Information Security Principles Initiative in the United States. He served as Adjunct Professor at the University of Madras and at the University of Dubai, teaching a master's program at both the universities. He has delivered over 70 workshops for CISSP aspirants in 14 countries across 22 locations. Even last week, a couple of days ago, he was in Sri Lanka. Before that, he was in Japan. He has multidisciplinary doctorate in the area of cyber criminology from University of Madras, a master's degree with distinction in technology management from University of Lincoln, UK, and a master's degree in law with honors from University of Salford, UK. He holds, very difficult to pronounce, FCA, CASSP, CASA, CISM, and CDPSC credentials and honorary fellowships in FISC and FCFIP. He is an IBM Geo alumni. He is the founder president of First Indian chapter of ISC2, served as Vice President of IAA in Zambia and Vice President of IAA, Chennai chapter. He had also served earlier on the boards of ISA-CA chapters in Chennai, Bangalore, and Dubai. Welcome, Dr. Ramasubramaniam, to take over and moderate the session.
Good afternoon. Dr. Vijay Kumar mentioned he cannot pronounce some of my credentials, but he's taken revenge on me with his CV. He's got far more credentials than what I got. I have great pleasure introducing Dr. Vijay Kumar, the first speaker of the afternoon. Like we probably count a few things here and there, he counts doctorates. He has not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 doctorates in 5 very different areas. One of them has gone to postdoctoral work. His doctorates are in behavioral sciences, safety management, supply chain sustainability, risk management, and a generic postdoctoral work in management. Amazing, isn't it? Yes. Right. He has multiple master's degrees. I am told the session is for 45 minutes. So I cannot afford to read all of them, which will take another 45 minutes. So let me tell you, he has a whole lot of master's degrees and a longer list of diplomas. But there are some focus areas I can't resist talking to you about. He has professional affiliations like FIISM, MIOSH of UK, CSP of the United States, MIIPE, and CSO from Singapore. He has been a distinguished health, safety, environment professional with over 40 years of experience. He worked in chemicals, automobiles, pistons, fertilizer, semiconductor, FMCG, manufacturing companies, shipbuilding and ship repairing, and service industries like the banking, telecom, and has handled engagements in Asia Pacific, Europe, Middle East, African countries. We normally accredit ourselves, or myself as a lead auditor for security. Every year we find a return saying, what have I done last 1 year? There's something called a functional code. Which function have you audited? Now, if Vijay Kumar has to fill up that form, he can blindly tick to everything. Nothing is not audited at all. Right. He is a consultant for IKEA, Siemens, Rolls-Royce, L&T, and SBCL, and is a visiting faculty in Annamalai University, Ramachandra University, RLI, Kalasilingam University. So with this rather brief introduction, I would welcome him to make his presentation on health, safety, and environment. Dr. Vijay Kumar.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. Well, like the morning session, this is going to be another controversial session. This is on HSE, that is Health, Safety, Environment, migrant workers, and human rights issues in India. That's what we are going to look at today. And we will also try to come out with some suggestions, solutions, and alternatives after our panel discussions. I'll be covering a few subjects. In general, it will be workplace hazards, then Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I will not touch too much on that, but a brief. Problems relating to interstate migrant workers, some socio-cultural factors, barriers to socio-cultural adoption by the workers, issues of child labor, occupational diseases, and we'll be discussing some possible solutions. You can see from here, what do you infer? The first one. Fall from height. The second one. Slip and fall on the same floor. The third one. He is getting back pain due to poor ergonomic posture, poor material handling practices, industrial fire. What is this? Some spillages and soil contamination. Dust pollution. Oil spillage and soil contamination. Workplace stress. Poor ergonomic posture. ஒரு அட்வர்டைஸ்மெண்ட் உண்டு தெரியுமா? முதுகு வலி, மூட்டு வலி, கைகால் குடைச்சல், அஞ்சால் அலுப்பு மருந்து. Just to make session lively, because it's post lunch. So. Industrial explosions. What is this? Effluents getting into the rivers. And that is welding hazards. So these are different types of hazards in industries. Some of the problems relating to occupational health, safety, environment at workplace, I can categorize them into 4 categories. Number 1 is safety. Second, safety hazards, health hazards, environmental hazards, and lack of competency. Coming to safety hazards, there are workplace hazards like physical hazards, chemical hazards, biological hazards, ergonomical hazards, and psychological hazards, environmental hazards, electrical hazards, and stress. These are, can anybody tell me what is called a hazard? What is the meaning of hazard? Simple word, danger. These are dangers, some of the dangers. Workplace hazards, substandard acts and working conditions. For any safety professional, there is a basic rule. We have a person called Father Hendrich. We call him as Father Hendrich. In the year 1931, he wrote a book called Principles of Industrial Safety. Principles of Industry, 1931. And at that time, he had analyzed 500,000 industrial accidents, and based on the investigation results, he wrote that book, Principles of Industrial Safety, what needs to be done. According to him, what he said is, 88% of the accidents in industries occur due to unsafe acts. 10% of the accidents in industries occur due to unsafe conditions. And 2% accidents, he called them as unpreventable. Unpreventable, he attributed to nature. Nature means it's flood, storm, cyclones, earthquake, which are unpreventable, according to him, at that point of time in 1931. Again, he went on and further added, 88% of the accidents are due to unsafe acts, right? Then 10% of the accidents are due to unsafe conditions, unsafe working conditions. Who creates these unsafe working conditions? It's because of somebody's unsafe act. Somebody has not done his job properly. So that 10% also he adds into that. So he says 98% of the accidents are preventable. That's what he had mentioned. So substandard acts and working conditions. Then lack of PPE. PPE stands for personal protective equipment. So these are some of the safety related hazards. Coming to health, occupational health. People are working in various industries. Their working environment has several health hazards. Several health hazards. There is one separate slide on health hazards. There I will be touching on that. And another thing which adds to health hazards is use of chemicals in industries and poor workplace hygiene. That also adds to health risk. Coming to environmental, it's air, water, and land pollution or soil contamination. Waste generation and disposal. In the morning, Mr. Swaminathan was showing the antelopes, deers. They are roaming around searching for food on the plastic and other rubbish waste. Waste generation disposal plays a crucial part in that. And then extreme weather conditions. In Chennai, Generally, people in North, they joke on us. Oh, you are from Chennai, you have only 3 seasons. Hot, hotter and hottest. And another important attribute is competency. Lack of knowledge and skill to perform their jobs. Poor or no training need analysis for the workers in industries. There is no training need analysis carried out and people are not competent enough. At the same time, there is no competency development also. All these lead to some of the consequences like fire, explosion, toxic release. These are some of the consequences. Coming to the Abraham Maslow's hierarchy, there are some basic needs, safety needs, social needs, esteem needs, and self-actualization. There are 5 steps. I've put it slightly different here. The first one's basic needs are for survival. What are the basic needs for a person? Food, shelter, and clothing. Fantastic. Who said the class is not lively here? Come on. Food, shelter, and clothing. These are required for survival. These are the basic needs. Once the basic needs are satisfied, people look for safety and security for themselves and their family.
Proper security equipment.
Of course, in the previous slide, that's what I mentioned, lack of PPE, that is personal protective equipment. I'm coming to that. That's what I said. Basic needs, safety needs, social needs, esteem needs, and self-actualization. I put that in a different term here. Survival. Basic needs are basically for survival. Then safety needs are safety and security. Social needs are nothing but belonging. He wants to be a part of a group. He wants to be affiliated to be part of a team or group or a community or an organization. Once that is also satisfied, then people look for recognition and respect. They are esteem needs. If all these needs are satisfied, then the person goes into a state of self-actualization. Then those kind of people can be motivated to do innovations, creations. That is self-esteem. Why I'm touching on Abraham Maslow is because problems relating to interstate migrant workers. First of all, why do they migrate from one state to other state? What is the need for them to migrate from one state to other state? Why should they go out?
Better payments.
Better payments? Better payments? Then?
Better condition.
Good. More job opportunities? Better treatment? Language preferences, okay. Good. Now, basic needs. Some of the problems are basic needs. They do not get the food, shelter, or clothing in their own state. And when they move to other states, the biggest problem is education for the children. They can't take their entire family along with them because education is going to be a problem for them. So they leave their family back and they go and work alone. A forced bachelor state. Then forced labor. People are forced into longer working hours and overtimes. That's one of the problems. When people come from other states, we don't restrict them, we don't tell them, just work for 8 hours, that is enough. They keep working for 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours, as long as they can. That's one of the problems for them. Then bonded labor. Bonded labor, what is this? You go to any construction industry, anywhere, in any state, you can see people from UP, Bihar, Jharkhand or Bengal. Most of the people are brought from there because they do not get satisfied on their basic needs there. What happens? There are agents who go there, give 20,000 or 30,000 or 50,000 rupees to their families. You keep this money and keep spending for your family. I am taking your son there for employment. They are bonded. They are bonded. It's a slavery, of course. So that's one of the problems for the migrant labor. In India, I am talking about. I have gone to several industries, several locations. Most of the places, this is the case. I keep speaking about this in all the seminars wherever I attend in India. Then, for the migrant workers, another problem is freedom of association and right to collective bargaining. Here, immediately, the local people, they will form a union, they will take agenda and they will say, we are a union. We have a union and we will do only collective bargaining. There is a freedom of association for us. What about the migrant labor? What about the migrant labor? That's the biggest problem for them. Discrimination. Discrimination. Largely everywhere it happens. They are discriminated. Based on the caste, based on the religion, based on the language, based on the color. And another problem for them is when they migrate from their own state to other state, language problems. And they cannot adapt to this kind of food. Especially from North India, they are used to wheat-based food, roti. Whereas here, its culture is rice-based culture, rice-based food. And difficult for them to adjust. All the 3 times they cannot eat rice. They are used to wheat. This is another problem. And then cultural differences. These are some of the problems related to migrant workers. During the COVID period, most of the industries got closed, lockdowns. And all the migrant workers, you know what were they state? You'll be shocked. They didn't have transportation. And they have to walk miles and miles and miles, hundreds of miles to go to their place. Look at there. How they struggled, the migrant workers, during the lockdowns. Because people going together in a bus was also not allowed during the COVID. You have to give physical distancing. And there were several socio-cultural factors involved. First one is religion. Second one is ethnicity. Then comes food and clothing. Even their style of wearing clothing and our style of wearing clothing is different. Language, ethics, demography. Demography plays a big part because the weather conditions there are totally different from here. Social trends, even the festivals, social changes, their preferences, their habits, and also technological progress. Some states are technologically progressed. Some of the northeastern states, they are not progressed and they have difficulties in adapting to these new technologies. Let's look at the barriers in detail. Coming to demography. Distance, of course, is a big problem for the migrant workers. Communication, now it's getting better because of the technology advancement and in the telecom sector basically. Everyone can afford a phone. Then climatic conditions. These are demographical issues for them. Then they have moved outside. Monthly household income. They are the breadwinners for their families. They have taken loans. They have given bonds. These are big issues for them. Then, when there are lockdowns, or companies are shut down, or the projects are completed, they become jobless. They are unable to travel, and people start starving. Lots of human rights violation. They are largely abused. If you go and shout at one of the local worker here, he will shout back at you. But when you do it for a migrant worker, they are helpless. They can't do that. If they do that, you will throw them out. They can't go back because they have come here for food, shelter, and clothing. And there is huge discrimination. Basically, they are voiceless community. They are voiceless community. Lots of forced labor, lots of bonded labor. There is no freedom of association and right to collective bargaining for them. And the biggest problem is, in case if they bring their family, it's a child labor. They can't send their children to the schools, so what they do? They make their children work. A big problem. You can see, I don't want to elaborate much on that. You can see which are the states where there are more child labor and what type of jobs they are involved into. Some pictures of child labor. Actuals. Actual pictures. You can see there. Carrying iron rods. Working with leather. Most of the people get chrome ulcers or skin cancers. Working in oil industry, the waste oil processing industries, textiles, construction industries, food, even welding shops and automobile workshops. Everywhere. Everywhere. In Tamil Nadu alone, as on 2015 data, there are 780,000 child labor. In Tamil Nadu alone I am talking about. 2015 data, thanks to data.gov.in. $780,000 children are working, mainly in Sivagasi, because it's a household activity for them. Every house the children are involved in making matchsticks. Well, coming to the occupational diseases. So how much more time I have? 5 minutes? Okay. Some of the occupational diseases in industries. Occupational disease, okay, when you come to diseases, there are two types of diseases. One is called as acute, other one is called as chronic. Acute effects, chronic effects. Acute effects are you get a disease and then you get cured immediately. Chronic effects are some of the diseases which you get and it will never get cured. It will never get cured. I have living examples, a lot of living examples of chronic diseases. The first one is called pneumoconiosis. Pneumoconiosis is a disease which occurs in your lungs. In your lungs. People working in construction industries, they get a disease called silicosis, where silica dust, silica is nothing but sand. Silica dust gets into your lungs. How does it get into the lungs? Let me briefly explain. From our nose and mouth, there is a tube which goes to the lungs. Right? That breathing tube has something called as cilias. C-E-L-I-A-S. Cilias. Cilias is like feathers of fish. It's there inside the breathing tube and it keeps moving from bottom to top. It keeps moving continuously. And between two cilia, the total gap is 0.5 to 5 micron size. Only that much of gap here. 0.5 micron to 5 micron size. Only that much of gap is there. And that is for you to breathe in air and breathe out air. But dusts, sizes between 0.5 to 5 micron, they also get in and they get settled in the lungs. Once it goes into the lungs, it cannot come out. Dusts are heavier. Due to gravitational force, it just goes and settles in the lungs. It cannot be taken out. What happens to dust above 5 micron size? These cilias keep moving, right? When we are eating, சாப்பிடும்போது புறையேறுதுன்னு சொல்றோம் இல்லையா? உடனே சொல்றோம் யாரோ நினைச்சுக்கிறாங்க. யாரோ எங்கேயோ நினைச்சுக்கிறாங்க. What happens is anything above 5 micron size, while eating food, you try to talk, one food particle gets into the breathing tube and it tries to goes inside. What happens? These cilia, they throw them out. And that comes out through your nose. அதுதான் புறையாது, வேற ஒன்றும் இல்லை. யாரும் எங்கேயும் நினச்சிக்கலாம் நம்மள. So these 0.5 micron to 5 micron size goes and settles in the lungs. It remains in the lungs. It becomes part of the lungs. And what is the function of the lung? Function of the lungs is to take air and pull oxygen through the lungs membrane, supply to all parts of the body through hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is just like a boat. It goes from the lungs, it takes oxygen. Each hemoglobin will take one oxygen, and like boat, it keeps traveling. It goes to all parts of the body. When the dust settles along the inner wall of the lungs, what happens? The oxygen cannot be separated and it cannot go through the semi-permeable membrane of the lungs. So you have breathing difficulties. People employed in silicon industry, that is construction industries. Business is people working in textile industries. Coal miners' lung, people working in mines. People working in asbestos industries get asbestosis. And people working in metal industries, metal melting industries, they get a disease called siderosis. Then musculoskeletal disorders is due to poor ergonomic postures. Dermatitis is another disease which is due to chemical contacts. Conjunctivitis, people get it because of welding, cutting, high flame work, soldering and furnaces. Too much of light. Then carcinoma is nothing but cancer. People get when they are coming in contact with benzenes, aspartas, VCM, vinyl chloromonomer, then ionizing radiations and chromium compounds in leather industries. Then hepatitis for the people engaged in hospitals, nurses, doctors. Then Reynolds phenomena is something called as white finger, when people use highly vibrating tools like sledgehammers and all that. Some pictures. Some pictures of occupational diseases. 2 more slides, sir. Now coming to some possible solutions. We need to use a management system process. What we can do is we need to use a management system process. There is a management cycle called policy, planning, implementation, operation, checking and corrective action, management review, and continual improvement. That cycle we need to use. There are various steps in those process, and we need to use a management system process. And industries need to take accountability for protecting employee well-being through compliance to national law, respecting human rights, adherence to labor standards, following health and safety requirements, and also environmental compliances, and they need to come out with their own self-regulations. They need to prevent child labor, forced labor, and they have to give freedom of association. There should not be any discrimination. And working hours and compensation need to meet the legal requirements. The key requirements from the government is they need to create awareness, training is required, competency development, and persistent monitoring is very much required. What gets measured gets done, right? Inspection and audits, supervision, and then we need to look at continual improvements. So these are some of the suggestions. This one we'll keep for the end of the session. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vijay Kumar. I think that was a very comprehensive presentation on health, safety,